talk to them. I'm sure they would love the business. And with that said, I'll introduce Susan.
Thank you. Hi guys, thanks for coming out tonight. I'm Susan Aubin with Merchants Mortgage, and I do fix and flip loans, so I'm a short-term lender. As Ian was saying before, you need a short-term lender, or you need a long-term lender if you're going to do a buy and hold strategy. So I can help you with short-term. Okay, so really quick, we've been in business since 1961, so we've been around a long time. We lend in about 9 states, and I myself have been with the company since 2004. I live in Colorado, so I only come out here about every other month, but we find deals every day from our Colorado office in all 9 of our states. And I also own 2 rentals out here because it's too expensive to buy them in Denver. Okay, so what we do is we offer fix and flip or rehab financing, whether you're fixing and flipping or holding, and we're faster, well, we're fast, and then we're cheaper than a hard money lender. So that's sort of our trade-off, and what we specialize in is offering you a really good product, but we're less expensive than a hard money lender. Our trade-off to that is...
I was going to say, for reference, so they're like 10.5% 2 points. If you go to a conventional hard money lender, they're going to be 15% 5 points. That's a pretty significant difference.
Yes. So the trade-off with us is that we do have a skin in the game requirement, so we're always going to have some sort of down payment requirement. It's usually relatively low, 10, maybe 20%, and there's some ways that we can help you recapture that if you're going to buy and hold the property. I'm not going to get into all of that tonight, but there are some strategies that we can offer so that you're not having to tie up that money potentially once you refinance. We have a lot of experience. Most of our staff has been doing this for 10 to 20 plus years, and we love working with real estate investors. That's what we do. So I'm going really quick. And I have some flyers at the front, so if you didn't get one, it'll go through our terms. And as Ian said, we're 10% plus. A lot of the smaller deals that we get here in Missouri, we're usually pricing those maybe 10.5-ish. But on our larger deals, you know, Overland Park area and in the Denver area, we're really doing those at 10%. So, and then 2 to 2.5 on the origination fee. And we offer a 6-month loan with an automatic extension feature, so it can go up to a whole year. I think I'm done.
Which if you're refinancing is also great because you're going to have seasoning with the regular lender and you might have to wait.
You might need that extra time, right? I might be done. So that's my contact information, and I do have cards and flyers up front, and I'll be around, so if you have any questions, thanks.
They also sponsored this event, so thank them. Thank your title.
Thank you. Like Ian said, I am Dave Green with Accurate Title here in Kansas City, based on Overland Park. Not to give a sales pitch, we do cover both Missouri and Kansas. Just because we're in one state, we don't license in both. I grew up in this industry, originally from Iowa. Up there, title's a little bit different than down here. Different. There it's mortgage and abstract. Down here it's title insurance. Gets you essentially the same result, just a little bit different way to get there. We deal with a lot of investors, everything from real green to real seasoned. A lot of people come in that I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to expect, what happens. So Ian asked me if I would speak tonight, and I said I'd be happy to. Like I said, in dealing with all kinds of different investors, I'm going to run through real quick. The car wash is what I call it. What to expect from got that contract signed. How do we close, or what do I expect between then? And how do I close, sell the property, or buy? You can go back. So what is title insurance? What does it do? It protects the seller. It protects the buyer, and we provide title insurance. It's not homeowners insurance. We get that a lot from new investors. If I don't need title insurance, I already got my homeowners policy. It's not the same. It's protecting your legal right in your investment. Some of you, it may be your living home. We are protecting your full interest in your biggest investment, or your biggest investments if you have more than one. So that someone from the past can't come up and claim lien to the property, can't say, no, my dad owned this property, I own 10% of this. That's what we do. We protect your legal right. It is a one-time fee. You don't pay it annually. Once it's paid for forever. And once you sell the property, it severs that. But again, I won't go into too many detail. If if you want more detail about what it is, find me after, look me up type of thing. Again, touched on it is not homeowners insurance. This is kind of the next two slides are basically what to expect, okay? You go out and get that contract signed, now what happens? You take that contract and you bring it to the title company, along with any sort of earnest money that may be written in the contract. Generally, we'll see anything from $1 to maybe $10,000, depending on the value of the property. 10,000 is usually pretty high. We're looking more around the 500 mark, maybe 1,000. If you're wholesaling, no matter the title company, they need the assignment, the wholesale agreement assignment, because that's assigning the rights to that original contract to the end buyer. And that title company has to search both parties. Who's coming out of title, who's going into title. So we know what we have to clear, what we're insuring, who we're insuring, and we issue a title commitment, which I'll get to here momentarily, that describes what we're doing, what exceptions we need to close. So the contract comes in, we then take that contract, we search the property, we look at who owns it, any sort of liens, judgments, mortgages, taxes. We issue out what's called a title commitment, and that's going to be a written report. The first one you ever get, it's confusing, but that's why you have a title company. You call them, walk through it. I don't understand this, and oftentimes they say, come on in, or walk through it on the phone. Here's what's needed, and we are a party or a partner with both buyer and seller to obtain things like payoffs of a mortgage, or say you're buying a house from an elderly gentleman, his wife died. Okay, let's gather that death information, whether it be a death certificate or things like that. Things to help clear up title so you can close timely and it can be insured. After we've done that title search and issued that title commitment, we will gather all invoices. So the payoff to Wells Fargo, maybe there's a city lien, we've got that death certificate, there's a realtor invoice, there might be whatever. Any invoices, we'll gather those together and we will present what's called a closing disclosure or a HUD, settlement statement, which is a breakdown of all the fees. Who's getting paid what, who's paying what. From there, we then schedule both buyer and seller to come in on closing. They don't have to close at the same time. They don't close at the same time generally. Usually the buyer comes in first, the money's there, then the seller, but that is not a requirement. The closing happens, it's anywhere from a 5-minute to an hour process, generally depends on how fine you want to read your documents, but that is your time to go through those. You're entitled to as much time as you need. Both parties sign, we fund the file, meaning we wire out the proceeds, we wire out the commission check, we wire out the payoffs. We record the documents, the deed, the mortgage if you have one, or anything else that would tie to that. And then anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, we issue the actual title policy. When you close, you are insured once the documents record. So if you don't have the title policy, you're fine. Don't freak out. Because we get that a lot too, saying, I closed a month ago, I don't have my title policy. Well, you're fine. You own the property legally, you are insured, but we mail those out or email if that's your preference. That's it in a car wash. No two deals seem to like they're ever the same, but I invite you to call me, come in if you have questions. I try to help you save some money, things to look out for, things to avoid that will prevent any sort of title headaches or closing related. I think that's all I got.
Hey, if you guys want chairs, we have back here. If you guys want to come grab one. Sorry, it's a little short. This is Brent Vogel with Vogel Property Management.
Thanks for having me. I got stuck with the property management job, obviously. I don't think I was in the meeting where we drew straws and decided what to do, but I'm the guy that fills in when you acquire the property. I got the 15-year, 20-year job every day, every night, making it work. And
Broken toilets.
yeah, broken toilets. We had a 50-year flood this year, which was interesting, or 50-year drainage issues in a lot of our older properties. But yeah, I'm Brent Vogel. I provide what I like to say professional property management. I think there's a lot of people that do property management in Kansas City, but we are really focused on making that dream come true, that 15, 20 years. Somebody's got to be there every single night, every single day, making these things happen, and that's what my firm does. So I just kind of stated this a little bit. We're a very stable residential property management firm. We're not trying to do many different things. We're not trying to flip properties ourselves or wholesale properties ourselves. We don't sell properties to our client base. That's something we would never do. We are really focusing on being the third-party property manager. We felt like Kansas City was pretty underserved in that specific thing. So I kind of started this in 2005 with the focus that I was going to be the best residential property management company in this city for investors, and I think we've kind of accomplished, kind of working towards accomplishing that, or maybe I would even say we've accomplished that, but we're nowhere near done with the learning that we want to do. I learn every day, and we want to be really, really good at this. We're performance driven. We look at our client stats. We talk with our clients. What are you trying to do from an investment strategy? What do your numbers look like? I mean, we're a lot of times presenting the numbers to our clients. Hey, this is what you should do. You maybe have a low performer over here. You have 20 units. You have a low performer over here. Let's maybe flip that out and reinvest into something else. We really focus on making sure the dream or the investment works for our clients. We're leveraging technology in almost every single thing that we do. You came from Harley Davidson. I came from the advertising world where I developed apps and software and was at the forefront of cutting edge technology for our clients. So just coming into this world, I was just like, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm supposed to do. So we're really trying to do everything we can in our office and externally with our residents. We've introduced self-showing software, for instance, that has shaved off 4 or 5 days off the leasing churn, or leasing time, which we feel is very successful. And we're developing a dashboard with our company. We're looking at the numbers every day. I'm looking at my business and I'm looking at your portfolio just the same way as you are. How can we find money? How can we leverage what we have to succeed? A real big initiative for us is maintenance. We feel like we've kind of, had an aha moment where if we don't feel like the tenant relationship is adversarial, we really want to take care of them, just like be human beings and take care of the tenants.
Surprisingly hard to find. That's how I would do it. That's how I would take care of people. I mean, I guess I have a human-centered focus on this. I want to, if the tenant lives in one of the properties that is under my last name, I want to make sure that I can sleep at night, making sure that they're comfortable, whether it's HVAC or plumbing or whatever. The doors work, the locks work. I kind of try to put my kids and my family in the situation where our residents are, and then I just make easy decisions after that. So we found that having a human-centered approach to property management leads to retention. Wow! They stay! And which is good for investors, If Your highest cost absolutely are return.
And our highest cost as a company is getting the technology out of the cupboard, getting everything out, getting everything stuck. We hate vacant properties. It is not a revenue. It's a revenue center, but it's not a profit centered deal that we do. We want tenants to stay and be happy, and our approach is the same as yours. If they're sending the rent in, and let's keep everything going. We do have a focus. We have a lot of out-of-state investors, so we do have a focus on make-ready management and capital improvements. A lot of times an investor will come with us and say, hey, I just bought this house and I need a rehab or make-ready. A lot of times we'll kick that over to Matt and his firm because that's what they do and that's what they're great at. But if a company needs us to manage a turn or make ready, we have the resources to do that. We just use our contractors. A lot of times we use Matt. Or we have a small in-house maintenance team that we can do a few things with, and so we do have that available for somebody that wants to buy a distressed property and wants to turn it into, maybe get some instant equity at the acquisition. That's always great to start out with a little bit of equity. And my last point is that we have a very strong team. We have too many people for the small amount of properties that we manage. We always stay about 200 units ahead of what we actually need as far as staff is concerned, because we want to support our investors. If Ian wants to come and drop off 50 units at Focal Property Management on a Tuesday, we are going to make that happen. We have the staff and capability and bandwidth to make it happen. We have a scaled operation, we're staffed for growth, and we're ready for units. More so now than ever. I mean, I feel so happy with what we provide our investors, and go do what they're saying to do. I mean, we're ready. So. Thank you.
Thank you. So Scott and Sarah Kaufman are here. They're with HI Group, so they're my insurance agents. I'll let them get up and introduce themselves.
We're not very formal.
There's no slide.
We didn't have a slideshow, so I
make sure you
apologize.
grab a card from these guys and talk to them. Because like I said, I went from the worst insurance company to the best. It was pretty nice, so I really appreciate it.
Hi, we are the principal owners of Auto Home Insurance Group. We are an independent insurance agency in Olathe. Scott started in insurance in 1993. I joined him in 2001 when we got married. And we are independent, so that means we have multiple carriers. So being investment property owners, whether it's rental properties or the fix-it-ups, rehabs, and flips, there are a lot of different things that you could possibly need, and your just regular captive insurance agent doesn't have that. We have the tool belt, and we can find you whatever you need. We have, 15 different carriers? Approximately 15 different carriers, so if there's a problem, whether it's a claim issue, it's vacant, and it's kind of leaning over, whatever it is, we can find a home for it. Okay, whether it's in a standard market or surplus lines market, we can find it for you. So we can produce evidence of insurance within 30 minutes or less. Tell us it's a rush and you got it. And you've done it.
I have literally probably 3 times forgot about insurance because.
Yeah, all we need to just tell us it's a rush, but we just need some basic information from you. We can write it, whether it's in your personal name, it's in an LLC, it's an S corp, whatever it is that you have, we can write it. We'll find you a home.
And we break into specialties. Sarah does more of the personal, the single home, up to 4 plexes, and then I pick up the basically 6 plexes and apartment complexes. So we kind of break into those specialties points.
So, and I have a handout back there that just has some of our carriers and our basic information, and I have cards. I'm kind of a technology geek. My phone is pretty much always next to me, whether it's on my nightstand or my desk or whatever. So emails, I answer emails pretty much anytime, day or night. I don't sleep very much. I think it comes from being a business owner, I don't know, but I've been known to answer emails at 1 in the morning. So if you have a question or, hey, listen, I'm closing on this property at 9 o'clock tomorrow, can you get me something? Yeah, get the details and I'll get it to you. Thank you, guys.
And the last team member I'd like to introduce is Alyssa Zider. So she's one of our real estate agents, and she also does interior design and comes up with some really cool designs for higher end stuff.
Yeah, so basically find you those houses that would work with the numbers, and I would say specialize in flipping. If you, I could go through the entire process for you, from the finding the house to negotiating to running the project, and kind of going through what would work with your budget and what would bring in the most buyers in whatever market that you choose to focus on, and then obviously stage it and sell it super fast. Right.
I think that's it for the team members tonight. I appreciate all you guys. They all pitched pitched in to help us
last-
do this
yeah.
for free, so thank them after, make sure you talk to them. So getting started with the criteria. So this is probably one of the most important things that you have to figure out as an investor, and probably the one thing that everybody struggles with. So like I was talking about the squirrel syndrome with being Matt, you know, in the beginning there's all these different directions I'm going, I'm looking all over the place, making offers like in 100 different zip codes. And you know, the key, if you talk to successful investors, just about every single one of them is going to tell you, figure out what your criteria is, narrow in on something, and then get really good at it. So that's what we've tried to do. So that's going to be, you know, are you going after single family, multi-residential, commercial, how many beds or baths, zip codes, price point, age, you know, all the financial stuff, so your price to rent ratio, cap rate, cash on cash return. I'm not going to get into the details of what all that stuff means. I'm just going to tell you about it so you guys can go look it up yourself. But I'll tell you real quick kind of what my personal criteria is. So in a single family house, we're looking for something that all in is, you know, we're somewhere between $50,000 and, you know, maybe $65,000 all in cost. We're looking for something that's going to rent for at least $800 a month. We have about three to four zip codes that we really focus in on for our single families. And then, you know, price to rent ratio, if we're looking at least a 1.2, and that's kind of what our criteria is. I can get into all the details of why that's our criteria, but you know, the intent here is basically just to kind of give you an overview, give you the education, show you where to go find out this information on your own, and kind of explain what is possible. Criteria is very important. And then taking action, so that's kind of the last step in this process here. And you know, so many people get stuck on the education piece, but then they never do anything with it. And I see that time and time again. Like, I was going to a lot of us go to the Mid-America Association of Real Estate Investors meeting. I was talking with somebody, and you know, we were just talking about houses. And, you know, talking to them, it's clear that they've been doing the research. They knew what they were doing. And I asked them, well, have you bought it? Or, you know, how many houses do you own? I said, oh, I haven't bought it yet. Well, how long have you been coming to these meetings? 5 years. This person's been coming to this meeting for 5 years and yet to actually pull the trigger. So, you know, that is absolutely the hardest part, and to get over your fears and actually do it. But, you know, you absolutely have to get to that point. So this is another, I guess I really like Derek's here, so I put two of his things in here. But he talks about ideas are just a multiplier of execution. So when the rubber really hits the road, it's the execution side of it that really matters. So weak idea, brilliantly executed is $10 million. So just make sure you don't do an awful idea, brilliantly executed. That's what I tell everybody to do. 15 minutes. The key is absolutely execution.
All right, so maintaining action. There's a lot of fear. Anybody have fear around spending big chunks of money? Probably all of us, right? This is kind of ingrained in us. But so how do you overcome those fears and deal with risk? Risk is involved in everything that we do, right? Driving here tonight, there was some risk. How do you mitigate that risk? You put a seatbelt on, you got airbags, right? You drive safe, you drive slow, whatever. That's how you mitigate the risk. So, you know, your perspective on how you look at that risk or you look at those fears is hugely important. So a lot of people are like, well, what if this happens? What could go wrong, right? Well, what if you looked at it in a different perspective of what could go right? What's the benefit of this? Why am I doing it? It's all about perspective. And that helps you overcome the fear and deal with those risks that are inherent to it. So what are the risks of continuing down my own current path, right? What if you continue staying where you're at today? What are the risks of that?
Yeah, so you guys saw the $50,000 a year 10% example and where that's going to get you. So what are the risks if, you know, you get to retirement age and you can't? You know, so like a lot of people don't think about the risk of what they're continuing to do right now. I think that's very important.
For sure. Then, really like what we talked about a minute ago is what do I have to gain? Focusing on that as opposed to what have I got to lose, right? Or however you want to look at it. Those will get you over the fear that comes along with it. So how do you deal with setbacks, right? That's a whole other thing of how to deal with the fears that come up. You know, we get emotional about things, right? Fear is just a thought. It's a scary thought, right? So we're scared of something bad happening. Well, it's just a thought. It's an emotion we bring to that thought. So if you can keep the emotion out of it, just be objective and let the numbers make the decision for you always. The numbers are going to tell you what to do. Keep the emotions out of it. So maintaining proper perspective is your future focus. That's why we established the why. Why are we doing it? But we also establish what are our goals and our action plan and stick to it. That helps us maintain the proper focus and the future focus. Did you want to comment?
I was going to talk a little bit about the routine. So Matt and I are both like morning routine people for sure. So there's this book called The Miracle Morning that I read probably 3 years ago, and seriously, that was like rocket fuel for my investing when I started doing that every morning. It's like I just have this routine that I do every morning, and different things. I meditate, so I'm a meditator. I also review my goals every day. And just having that thing that you do at the beginning of every day, it just kind of reminds you of your goals. It kind of like, it's like a reset button, right? So you got these long-term things. Investing is an exercise of delayed gratification and long-term thinking, right? So it's the small stuff that you do on a day-to-day basis that adds up to create these huge results. But you got to keep yourself steered in the right direction. So having some sort of a routine every day, is like a mental reset to keep you going down the right path. It's just, I can't stress enough how helpful that was for me to start with.
Same here.
Question, what time do you guys wake up in the morning?
4:30.
6:30. But I do most of my
You've got his own
first hour
schedule.
at work.
I have to be at work by 7, so if I had to be at work by 8, I'd
So how do you analyze a rental property? What are some expenses associated with the rental property? Even if you're not investing, you kind of got some ideas. Spit them out. Vacancy. We got a vacancy. What else?
Property tax.
Property tax.
Utility.
Insurance. From the insurance people. Nice. All right. What else?
Capital expenses.
Capital expenses.
Always best.
Maintenance. Yep. Okay. So there's quite a few of them. Mortgage, taxes,
Lawn
insurance.
care and snow removal.
What's that?
Miss lawn care and snow removal.
Yeah. But you guys got the majority of them. So what are some incomes that also offset that? There's rental income, there's pet fees, there's laundry. It depends, right? I mean, it depends on the property. There's a lot of things you can do to streamline your income or produce multiple streams or more streams of income on a property. So that's basically the things you need to take into consideration when you're going to look at a property. Like, does this make sense numbers-wise for me to invest or purchase this property and make it an investment in my portfolio?
So I'm going to go through kind of the how to analyze a rental property, which is one of the most important things you have to learn how to do. And just going through some of these expenses, you will find that some of these apply sometimes and sometimes you don't. So for example, where we invest right now in a single family home, it is normal for us to pass off all utilities, all snow removal, and all lawn care to the tenants. So they do all of that stuff. We basically have, mortgage, taxes, insurance, and then maintenance and CapEx, and they pretty much have property management. They have everything else. Now, if you go to a multifamily property, you're going to find, so if you have a building with 10 units in it, tenants obviously aren't going to be doing the snow removal and the lawn care, or even a fourplex sometimes. And a lot of times they might not be separately metered, so now you're paying some of the utilities, and that stuff can really add up. So like you might look at the numbers originally and think this property is a great deal, and then you start running the actual numbers, and before you know it, all your cash flow is gone. So I actually bought a fourplex that I thought was an awesome deal, and then I started getting into it a little bit, and I realized I actually wasn't making kind of money on the product. So this is straight from the, actually, we're going to have an eviction on this house, and we'll tell you about this later.
Oh,
So throw these numbers at the door. So I told you guys I'm a big fan of Bigger Pockets. Those guys give out they provide a ton of free value on their site, and I'm a big fan of their calculator, especially for beginners, because you can get on there, and there is a spot for every single conceivable thing that you could possibly have for an expense. So it's a really easy way to, get yourself thinking, oh, I didn't even think about that. Do I have that on this property? It's a great way to analyze the property. So basically all that stuff that we had on that slide before, we took that, plugged it into their calculator, and this is kind of the report that it spits out. So I'm going to go back to this slide for a second. So the hard part here is where do you actually get this information? So for example, mortgage, that's pretty easy. You can use a mortgage calculator online. Taxes, so the best way is to go on an actual county record to figure out what the taxes are. Insurance, For me, I've got, like, all my properties are so similar that I know what it's gonna be, but when you're first starting out, you know, have your insurance company run a quote for you. Now, maintenance and CapEx, that is almost more of an art than a science, and you have a lot of things to consider there. So if you're do what we do and you just rehab the property, everything's brand new, you've replaced all the major CapEx stuff, and that number is obviously gonna be a lot lower than if you go buy a property that has an existing tenant in it and it's, you know, hasn't been touched in 20 years. So those are all things you have to kind of think about. Maintenance, you know, rule of thumb for me, somewhere around that $200 a month per door or something like that. Yeah. Property management, call your property management guys. So they're going to tell you it's 7% or 8% or whatever it is. But you also got to factor in their releasing fees and things like that. So I typically just plug 10%, and then you have all this other stuff you have to figure out as well.
And it could be 10%.
It could be 10%. Yeah. So, all things to think about. So this is a calculator that we did on a property that we bought. So I think we bought this for $42,000 or $43,000, and it's really nice because it has all your different expenses broken out. It shows what percentage of the whole you're making up. You've got all your loan information on there, your purchase price, and then you have your monthly cash flow. So this number up at the top here, you can see that's $275 a month. That's really good cash flow. Our personal criteria is we want to be north of $100. So 100 is our bare minimum that we'll take on the property, and that's with everything. So that includes property management and everything. Cap rate's about a 10, it's a 14, and then cash on cash return of 23%. What did I do?
Not asleep.
You're going to sleep?
There you go.
So, this is the bottom part of the calculator. So this is where you can really start to see why real estate is such a powerful investment. So, with buy and hold real estate, you're making money in multiple ways. So the first one is the cash flow. So if you bought a property right, you're making a couple $100 a month in income. But the beauty is, you have somebody else paying down your debt on an appreciating asset. So if you have a $300,000 house, if you're break even on cash flow, if that's on a 20-year note, in 20 years you're going to own a $300,000 home free and clear, right? So it's like a forced savings plan. Plus, just assuming you're getting 3 or 4% appreciation, it's likely worth probably $400,000 now, or it used to be worth $300,000. So at the bottom here, you can see it's showing annualized total return of 150% return on investment. So like you guys are making 10% of your 401k, we're 15 times better, right? So, and we can see over time it's actually dropping down a little bit. So that's what's happening there is you're basically gaining equity in the property. You don't have as much leverage or other people's money working for you, so it's more of your money. So your returns drop over time, and that's why we say, every 5 years or so you want to maximize your returns. You want to be either trading up and selling or pulling some of that equity out and using it to go buy more assets.
That's our strategy.
That's our strategy. We want to grow as quick as possible. So this was my very first investment.